time. Game time. Game time. We winning, we winning, we winning, we winning. It's game time. Game time.
Welcome back to the Game Time Greatness Podcast. I am your co-host, Grant, and with me today,
co-host Ethan Wright, reigning champ.
Woohoo! And I am GG8 champ.
For 1 more week.
Man, so we have quite a bit of playoff to cover, having not had a playoff podcast yet so far. And we're going to go through week 15, the first round of playoffs. We're going to go through week 16, the semifinals, and some of the irrelevant games and the toilet bowl. And then we're going to do some predictions for week 17, our final third place, 7th and 9th, which don't really matter. And then we're going to do look kind of reflecting on the season. We'll do some draft grades and or look at Yahoo's draft grades and compare them to our possible finishes for those that haven't finished already. So with that, we're just going to jump into week 15. Noah and Matthew both on bye week because they were first and second place, as you can see on this bracket. And then the first matchup on here is Jarvis versus Zach. And the 138-119, not a very high scoring playoff bracket score, but those are the games you have to win. And Jarvis, kudos to you for squeaking that one out. And I mean, you didn't come out with it unscathed with all your injuries. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite you in the championship. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But yeah. And then we had Jake versus Cole in a 144-136. Not the highest scoring, especially not considering next week. But I mean, that was a close game. And I'm really glad that Cole didn't use Antonio Gibson to get farther in the playoffs that I gave him earlier this season. So comments on their matchups?
Yeah, so both of these games, the playoff matchups were pretty much nail biters the whole time. I think all 4 teams probably called GG to themselves multiple times throughout the weekend, and then it was just kind of back and forth, anybody's game. Jarvis paid the ultimate price in losing basically his 2 top players, and Mike Evans and Leonard Fournette, sadly. Got the win, gets to move on. We'll see in a moment. Everybody knows how that panned out for him this week. So, pay a big price there, but snuck it out. So that's really what matters. Noah, we know you're on bye, but I mean, I guess everybody went on vacation, partying in Cabo like the Giants or something, because your roster, whether it's set or not, shows 74.54. And maybe they're out partying a little bit too hard before the semifinals matchup, and maybe that cost them a little bit. So maybe some better team management could have been used there. But, live and learn. On the consolation bracket side, the 2 matchups there were me and Cece and Brandon and Holmes. Basically decides who plays in the toilet bowl. We were really close to a commissioner and reigning champ matchup in the toilet bowl, which would have been entertaining for everybody. I know Brandon and myself, we either wanted to both be in it or neither of us be in it, either have the entertainment or avoid the potential heartbreak. Lucky for Brandon, he snuck out of it with a 2-point victory, barely beating Holmes and hanging on there. And unfortunately, I got to face off Holmes in the toilet bowl the next week. So we'll let that take us into week 16. Yep. Week 16 had semifinals, Matt and Jarvis, and Jake and Noah. We'll hit the big games first here. Jake, huge victory here for Jake over Noah. 0.22, which is the length of his inseam, according to our GG chat this week. Definitely took me 48 hours to understand that joke, but nice. So just barely squeaking it out. Noah, sorry about you. Sucks to put up you said it was the second highest, but I killed that for you. It was the third highest scoring game on the week. So I think huge upset. What was that?
I said I think he meant relevant scores, but
Hey. Toilet Bowl.
You can have it. You can have your
relevant matchup. I will take my credit. But unfortunately for Noah, it's a done deal. No stat corrections, no fumbles. Kamara just snuck him right over the ledge and then teetered right there and didn't fall off, luckily for Jake. This matchup and Jarvis's matchup with Matt actually had a lot to do and a lot of relevancy in this garbage Monday night game with Ian Book at quarterback for the Saints against the Dolphins. Grant, if you want to talk about Matt Jarvis's matchup.
Sure, yeah. Matthew, that's a tough loss. That's ones that you don't really forget, especially when you like have a team that is so great. And we talked about earlier in the season how the best teams, they don't have a good track record of making the playoffs or of winning the whole thing. And that just didn't happen. It sucks that, 144 to 152 isn't crazy, but that's probably one of your lowest weeks, at least without buys and stuff like that. And so losing that to Jarvis and a Monday night game, which we were talking about the Monday night games and how pitiful they are, but how the pitiful the NFL game was. But for fantasy, it's like, that's so crazy to watch both these matchups be determined on Monday night. Heartbreaking though, because Matthew, with your lead going into Monday, I was watching the game over break and really just going, he might actually squeak out like a 6-point victory or a 5-point, whatever it was, with Duke Johnson and
Marquez Callaway.
Yeah, Marquez Callaway.
Those two players who are completely capable of a good piece.
It was like heartbreaking. And thankfully for, I guess, to put Matthew out of his misery early, like it didn't take very long for them to score. But that's a devastating loss. Congrats to Jarvis. That's fantasy for us. So
that's huge. Getting to the championship. Even after the huge losses he had last week in his top two players and being able to squeak that out. Yeah.
And then we had a couple of relevant games that me and CC going on. Now I get to play Brandon in the 7th place game for, I guess if we're counting it for anything, it's draft position starting next year. So at least the start of that. So your
other notes on week 16 is just huge props to Jarvis on his start sit decisions there. Whether he had any help or not, we'll leave that up to his own interpretation. But Jarvis, great job on the waiver wire this week, blowing the rest of your budget. Nice to see you finally spend some of that hard saved cash on some great players. Keyshawn Vaughn, didn't get a lot of work, but scored a long touchdown for you. Got like 13, I think. Justin Jackson, like RB1 on the week. That just about made up for the loss of Fournette. Scotty Miller busted, but still, good job throwing him out there. Just a great win on your part.
Shout out to whoever told you to to suspend your fab.
Shout out to your inside sources there. Your inside sources need a raise.
But that's what we've been needing for you.
Toilet bowl, gotta be the highest scoring toilet bowl ever. Toot my own horn a little bit, even though it's the toilet bowl. Last 2 victories. So after the season that I've had, whether you say I'm bad or I'm unlucky, whichever one, doesn't matter. Didn't get last, so I'll take that victory. 199 point club, 199.3. I was terrified this whole game because for the second week in a row, after playing CC last week, Kelsey dropping 40, his best week of the year on Thursday night, and then A.J. Brown dropping 30 this week, his best week of the year on a Thursday night. It was kind of just debilitatingly sorrowful for the whole start of the week. I was like, yep, here we go. We're going to go from, the ring to the pooper. And somehow between Rex Burkhead putting up 30 almost and Burrow putting up 46, some last second starts there. And Ronald Jones, a lucky ad, didn't have the fab. Like Jarvis definitely would have blew his fab on Ronald Jones this week. And I just happened to pick him up during the week last week. So lucky pickup there for me. Snuck it out, was able to avoid some heartbreak there. So small victory, but I'll take it.
Yeah, congrats.
That'll bring us up into the big week.
Yeah. And so I guess we'll go through our projections of the lower or the not as important games, starting with our 9th place game, which really doesn't matter. It's CC versus Mike. I'm sure that they both really care about this matchup for them. I'm just going to say Mike is going to win this one. Yeah, and I have no research put into it. I'm just
I couldn't even tell you who they're starting this week. I don't think either one of them care that much, but CC didn't start anyone he didn't set his roster last week. Don't expect
I'm sure the Yahoo app is deleted off of his phone already.
It's for sure in the recycle bin. Mike, he'll probably roll somebody out there.
Yeah.
Blow some kisses on his guys and spread them out. So I think Mike takes that one.
Yeah. And then me versus Brandon in the 7th place game, which has at least somewhat implication for us to have some fun off-season draft position rank. But me versus Brandon, I'm also going to pick myself, but we'll see.
It's actually a pretty big game for picking the best playoff team, or your opinion of the best playoff team, even though it's an upset every year.
Right.
But I think since you picked yourself, I'll pick Brandon on this one. That should be a good game between y'all for that consolation championship. And then the last one is the losers of the winners.
So the 2 bye weeks.
I didn't realize that it was the top 2 seeds.
Both of them didn't get to.
Either one of them made it, which is sad. So this is Noah and Matt. Noah, team name is Best Team Never Wins, and I think that's true, except for when it's 3rd place, and then the best team is going to smack you this week because they're just really mad from last week that they lost to Jarvis, and they're just going to have to take it out on somebody. And your guys are still hungover from Cabo, so they're probably still going to be feeling some effects there and get thrashed because they're angry.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick Matthew. I mean, again, there's no research put into that.
Absolutely zero.
I don't think either of them. I mean, I think they care a little bit, but I wouldn't imagine they care nearly as much after the heartbreak of last week, especially for both of them. One being a .22 loss, the other one, being what should have been a surefire win for Matthew. But
I don't know if I've been in a 3rd place game before. I think maybe once. I'm pretty boom bust, as we discovered earlier this year. But I can't imagine having fun in a 3rd place game.
Yeah, it's just
especially being the top 2 seeds when I'm sure both of them definitely thought they were going to win.
Yeah,
and that's that for those
the
guys.
playoff challenge, it doesn't make really a big difference for them. So
no, it's a bottom tier pick either way.
Yeah, and then our last in our champion to be, I guess, that will finally get to take the trophy. It'll be a new person. That's like really exciting for the league. I think everybody is genuinely happy for that. Obviously, Jake and Jarvis have been in the league a long time, and I don't know if Jarvis has made it to a championship or even through the semifinal or to the semifinal before, but Jake having a 2nd place. I mean, there's some real like.
There's a lot of bragging rights at stake here.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Jarvis has consistently been listed as like a bottom tier player, whether he agrees with that or not. And no shots at Jarvis. I liked his team after the draft this year, and he started out hot, was in 1st place after the first half of the year, and been rooting for him. And he kind of fell off, not to his own management or anything, just Jamar Chase kind of fell off a little bit. Fournette picked it up, so that kind of snuck him through the end. It's been a great year. Jarvis's first time in the championship. Jake has chance for redemption and not be a 2-time loser. 2 of the OGs of GG getting to match up here. Noah, no offense, we always hate on you, but I was really glad that you lost just for the sake of you not getting 3 championships. I think the only ones with 3 are you, me, and Brandon, and I want to keep it that way until I get my 3rd. I don't want anyone else to have 3, preferably no one else to have 2. So I was definitely in favor of either Jake, Jarvis, or Matt taking this home this year and getting a fresh champion on board. Even though I will miss my reign, and it was not as sweet as it could have been, but 2021 was a great year.
Yeah. And so I guess we'll just go right into the predictions. And we were talking a little bit before this, how it really just there's no disrespect here, but you have a lot of injuries. And we were talking about how if you had Hopkins and you had Fournette and you had Mike Evans all healthy and playing like how they should be playing, this is a much more interesting and fun championship, seemingly to watch. It's fantasy, stuff happens. So we can say on paper, like, I think Jake's team is going to win. I think it just looks better on paper, but that means nothing. You can ask Matthew. It doesn't matter. And so I'm still going to pick Jake. I think that his team does just have that advantage, and I'm going to rely on that. But
to me, this is the same exact matchup as Jarvis's matchup last week with Matt. This is on paper, a top tier matchup versus a struggling team with a lot of injuries. If you take Jarvis's team and you add those three players you're just talking about, Fournette last week would have had a good game. Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn had a great game. So that's another 20 plus for him there. This week, he's against the Jets. So that's like at least 75 points for Fournette if he was healthy. And then Mike Evans also against the Jets. And Hopkins, if he's good against the Cowboys, that ought to be a shootout. But they're not there. If they were, I think Jake's, shaking a little bit, pretty nervous. He's going to be nervous anyways.
Yeah.
But that would make it a really close game. Unfortunately, they're not there. Not going to count Jarvis out of this. Anything can happen like we saw last week. And the first half of the season, Jake had pretty close to the same roster. And there hasn't been a lot of turnover on his roster. And it hasn't – he was in last place the second half, but he was in last place the first half. So, obviously anything can happen with this roster he has. It was boom or bust. It's been solid. But Jarvis, you still got a shot. That being said, I'm going to pick Jake.
Yeah. And I think we just have to state that one more time about how Jake's team was 0-5 before his winning streak, or at least the winning started for him, is unbelievable how we can – I mean, the point scoring is obviously telling of how that wasn't necessarily true that you were 0-5. But we had predicted in the podcasts prior to this that watch out, Jake's team is legit. And he was in last place, and now he's in the final. And so – for
the fans out there who don't follow the Yahoo page and the GG group chat every week, who don't have access to those, are true fans. Last time y'all heard from us, Jake was last place or close to it. And like Grant said, he's had a comeback. Jake's been clawing from the bottom, sending out trades left and right. I think he's the only one who had multiple trades done this year. I think maybe had multiple, at least the James White one with Cole. No trades that, did anything. He did offer one to me that definitely would have changed the history for this year. I had a trade from Jake. With all the trade hate I get, me and Jake actually have decent trade talks, along with probably me and Grant. That's probably about it. He listened to me. But he offered me Debo and Chubb for Cordell Patterson and Diggs. My team namesake and two of his favorite players, and his Atlanta Falcon in Patterson, definitely would have been a blockbuster trade. Definitely a fair trade. Just in my mind was super even, and I would just roll the dice with the players I already had instead of flipping it. Jake called me out for it later, but that's fine. He's definitely glad that I didn't hit accept on that. And honestly, I am too, because that probably would have ended with Noah winning this. And we talked about it earlier, I don't want to have 3, and I wasn't going to win it either way. Wouldn't have made playoffs, but I didn't get the toilet, and worked out. So Jake, you're welcome. Good luck.
What could have been. Yeah. All right. And that'll bring us to our last little section of the podcast, and will likely be the last podcast of GG11. So just really quick, I'll put on screen. These are the draft grades that Yahoo gave us post draft, and we just kind of want to reflect on where everybody kind of finished. So, jumping right into it, the big one, obviously, we'll just start at the top. Whoever had the top draft grade, and that was my co-host here, Ethan. And we all know where that ended up. So, in
First
the toilet
211,
bowl
baby.
with 199 points. So,
Hey, that draft
it's just
grade really
crazy.
showed up in the last week. That's all I got to say.
And obviously injuries and stuff. This means nothing. It's just fun to reflect and kind of look at it. How important draft day is, it's not. It doesn't make that big a difference. But then you got people like Jake and Matthew there at the top, and even Zach having those 2, 3, and 4 spots on the draft grades, those A grades. All were playoff teams, and one obviously in the final. One was the best team. And then Zach, you fell short early, but you did have a solid season. And then, you can go over the bottom of that, Ethan, or you can keep going down the list.
Yeah, bottom half. Where'd you leave off, Grant? 5?
With the Brandon at 5.
Yeah, so Brandon at 5. Honestly, he didn't fall off that much. Fell down 2, maybe 3 spots to either 6 or 7, or 1 or 2 spots, wherever he ends up at 6 or 7. So pretty on par there. Grant, same thing, ended up middle of the pack. Can't complain there. Holmes, these next 2, Holmes and CC, 7 and 8. Yeah, they're down there at 11 and 12. So that, or 10 and 12, however that ends up for CC. But definitely on the regular season, we're the worst 2. Injuries for CC were at play there. Holmes, we don't know what to tell you. So Yahoo got it wrong there. Cole, middle pack, not that far off. Noah. So 10 and 11 here are Noah and Jarvis, and these were definitely huge upsets. I don't know I think I disagreed with Yahoo on both of these. I definitely was scared of Noah's team right after the draft. Ended up with all of these ancient, established receivers who are just elite. And then I knew Melvin Gordon would be good for half the year. I didn't think that he would be, useful double-digit points every week for the whole season. So that really carried him. And then Mixon continuing his breakout there, being a top-tier option, just carried him through the whole year. All he needed was his top 5 players, and he was good. So that was a huge upset on projections there. Jarvis, Fournette is probably really huge in carrying here. Fournette was, I think, at the time of draft, I took Ronald Jones over Fournette a whole round and a half ahead. So the projection-wise, Fournette was not supposed to be useful and ended up, RB1.
A league winner for you. Yeah.
Definitely a potential league winner there for him if he can pull it out this week without him. And then Mike, rounding out the bottom at 12. I didn't think Mike had the worst draft.
No, he definitely didn't.
And, middle tier, again, bottom middle tier. So only the huge 2 upsets there are Jarvis and Noah, and then me going way down.
I mean, injuries, but you don't win the league at the draft. So
draft grades don't mean everything, but they are definitely a huge ego boost right after you draft and you log in once we get the schedule and everything, and you see that A. I please the Yahoo fan base and get good draft ratings for the most part. It doesn't always mean anything, but so I was defending champ, got the highest draft grade, and then had a great first 3 weeks. I was like, man, we are rolling. And then Jake proclaimed me as the best fantasy player in the league, and ruffled some feathers. I was like, wow, Jake just really respects my game. He just is a huge fan of mine. And then Jake jinxed me, and this is where we're at now, and this is my life.
There he.
But Jake, still rooting for you this week. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck to Jake and Jarvis. We're glad to have a new champion on the trophy, so that's exciting. And so this will kind of wrap up GG11, and on New Year's Day, no less. So
in a wild year, starting the new year off with a podcast, get things rolling. Gonna be another good one.
That's right. All right. So good job everyone this year, and we will be back with next season and some draft order type stuff coming up. So like, comment, and subscribe, and yeah, see you guys later.
See you guys.